Hello everyone, welcome to 22W45A. We have new blocks, new mob models, and inventory changes. And as always, I'm going to tell you the difference between what's for 1.19.3 and 1.20. And just before we get into it, over half of you that watched the last Snapshot video were not even subscribed, so if you want to reduce your chances of missing out on these videos, hit that subscribe button. So thank you for doing so, and let's start off with creative inventory changes. And I wanted to start out with a couple of tweets from King B-Dogs, who's suggesting this is probably going to be the last round of changes to the creative inventory. And it's also nice to see that the process of working with the community to bring out the best ideas has gone pretty well, which I'd agree with. And with this round of changes, you might notice straight away something feels different here, right? We've got a whole new tab, Colored Blocks, where you have all of the block types that have those 16 colored variants. They have of course been moved out of building blocks, so now this tab is less cluttered. Now this leaves us with space down the bottom here for potentially another tab. But if you are an operator in the world that you are playing, there is another tab, and the way to access it is to go into the options, controls, and there's a new button here for operator items tab, which you can turn on. So now when we open our inventory, we have the Operator Utilities tab. You'll see in here that all of the light levels have been added, as well as the structure block, and then command blocks and other things that we saw moved around last time have been moved here. And if I can make a suggestion for this tab, might it not be a good idea to put the Ender Dragon spawn egg and Wither spawn egg in here, since they're currently hidden behind commands. And if you're wondering what an operator is, it's the person that can run the commands on a server. This doesn't work in single player, but the command is /OP. Getting back to the inventory, we have a couple of renamed tabs. Consumables is now food and drinks. And the crafting tab has been renamed to ingredients, as not everything in here is actually used in crafting. In here, the bottle of enchanting has been moved out of the tools and utilities tabs and put next to the enchanted books. In food and drinks, cooked and raw foods have been paired next to each other. We will also see the different types of suspicious stew that are craftable here, and they actually tell you what type they are when you hover over, as you can see the effect that you're going to get. When you put it into your inventory though, that goes away. And if you're really observant, you might have noticed that this tooltip now tells you what category it's from. This is something that previously only happened when using search. It would tell you what category the item could be found inside of. As you can see, some of these are indeed in multiple categories. All of the axes have been added to the combat tab, and you can still find them in tools and utilities. Also in both of these tabs, you can find each flight duration of firework rocket. It's next to the elytra in tools and utilities, and in combat it's located next to the crossbow. In building blocks, you'll see that pressure plates and buttons of each type have been added. At the top of functional blocks, you can now find all the different light sources here. Also in the functional tab down at the bottom, the Eye of Ender has been put right next to the end portal frame. Now the redstone blocks tab has been reordered to put the more likely to use blocks at the front, and then all the variants of pressure plates and buttons that didn't do anything different have been removed. And that's the same for boats too, although for some reason the raft of chests stayed in, even though they do exactly the same thing. The natural blocks tab has also been reordered. There's quite a few little subtle shifts and changes here. There are also changes to the Open to LAN screen. This is local area network, so multiplayer across your network. You'll see here that the game mode and allow cheats are actually set to what the world is currently at by default, and now you're going to be able to put in your own custom port number. Similar to this, a command that I completely forgot about is publish. You can now use this with the ability to set allow commands to true or false. You can then set the game mode, and last of all you can put in a port number. And of course that port number is way too big. There we go. So you saw it at the beginning, we have two new beautiful bamboo blocks. And I don't know what you were expecting, but they can be placed in the 3 different axes of rotation. And I absolutely love this texture right here. The green one is just so gorgeous. But how is it crafted, I hear you asking? It's pretty simple, just 9 bamboo like that for 1 block of bamboo. And then in order to get the block of stripped bamboo, we strip the wood with the axe. So some of you might have sussed out, this is like the log and the strip log. If we look at the ordering of bamboo here, they're sort of placed in the same way. And I'm going to guess that like wood and stripped wood, some people are going to call for the ability to craft this without having this texture on one of the sides. And I've got a feeling that Mojang might not do that one for this block. But anyways, I want you to look at this and tell me which two do you think are the stripped blocks? Because I think they share the exact same texture. But when I know that two of them are different, I kind of look at it and think, they're slightly different. No, I think the top textures are exactly the same, and I think there's a missed opportunity actually here to do something different. Like, what if on the bamboo one it was a little bit greener or a little bit darker, then you would have, one additional texture in the game. And something intentionally a little different here, when you craft these down to planks, you only get 2 instead of 4. Now, to answer a few questions, both of these can be used as fuel. Their default tool of choice is indeed the axe, and I don't think there's anything else to tell you. This block can't be composted, and it also has the same sound as placing down planks. So while on the topic of 1.20, one bug fix / change you might want to know about: the camel can use the dash ability, but it could also be used by the secondary player when sitting on a camel, so now only the rider can use the dash. Next we travel to a woodland mansion. And this is because the Vex mob has had its model and textures changed. And I've got to admit, this was something I really wasn't expecting to see. But here on Twitter, Jasper says that the Vex model change was actually requested a long time ago and a lot, and they finally got around to doing it. So we, my friends, are going to check it out, but of course the first thing they do is fly downwards. So let's get a few on the screen. So I'm going to have to summon one in with no AI because they tend to just drift away from wherever it is I'm standing. It's like hard to get a proper good look at them. And here it is. This guy doesn't have a sword though. And I'm using spectator mode with the slowest movement speed so we can just kind of really take in the depths of its model and see the wing animations. So it's when you do this side-by-side comparison that the change starts to become obvious. Although they both feel like the Vex, the texture of the new one has been simplified to be a little more consistent with a certain other mob that I can think of. And that is the LA mob. As you'll see here, they're really quite similar now. The arms of the new Vex are slightly bigger and it's got bigger wings too, but otherwise they are now really consistent with one another. And of course, the Vex have their angry faces too. Oh, and its hitbox is still going to be rather large, as you can see here. That's so it makes them easier to fight. So I think the reasons for the change here are really quite evident. Although I love the look of the old Vex, I don't feel like this new one is particularly better. It's just more consistent. Anyway, let me know what you think about this change with a comment down below. So now for a bunch of miscellaneous changes for 1.19.3. The music of the Wild Update soundtrack has had its volume slightly reduced in the game. There were only 4 tracks in this soundtrack and they've just been adjusted to play slightly quieter in game. We also recently saw the introduction of the new default skins to the Minecraft launcher, and the news this week is that these new skins will now work in offline mode. So shulker boxes have had this unique property where you can have things that sit on top of them that are attached to the shulker box, yet when you open it, they do not get detached. As you'll see here, a scaffolding actually blocks it, but something like a torch will pop it off. Same for the item frame and the button. However, the rail actually stays on top. There may be some other quirks here too that Mojang might want to go through and revise, which things can stay or not, like there's string on top of that, for example. I should also mention that this works sideways as well as vertical. And it might be a bit of annoyance if you've got stuff sitting on top of your shulker boxes in your world, but really it's just one of those things that's been around for a long time and does need to change. Now here's a bug fix we can all rejoice about. If you've ever tried to send a horse through a nether portal, the likelihood is that when it comes out on the other side, it's actually going to be inside of the obsidian. So there's a bug fix to take care of this. You can see this one was perfectly aligned when it came through, so it didn't take suffocation damage on the obsidian. That is a great little bug fix, and when it comes to the others, there weren't really any that were worth mentioning. But what is worth mentioning is my Minecraft discussions playlist. There is lots of new and interesting content I've been creating for my channel over here. The Hermitcraft trilogy is concluded, so if you want to see the origin story of Hermitcraft, how it was created, then check out the playlist. And if you're still here, be sure to leave a like on the video. Thanks as always. I'll be seeing you next week, hopefully with another snapshot.